Alrighty, hello. So today we're working on Lab 5. Students will create the following components on window 1 of their projects. Combine a button component, a 3D image of an unpressed button, and a 3D image of a pressed button to create an animated button that responds to being pressed. This group should have a custom property. The button should drive the custom property, and the custom property itself should be bound to a Boolean memory tag. So here's unpressed, and there's pressed. Create a slider component with a binding to a memory tag. Create a level indicator component combined with a tank image from the symbol factory with a cutaway removed using the difference tool. Display the level indicator component beneath it in the Z order. The newly created group should have a custom property. The level indicator needs to be bound to this property. The custom property should then be bound to the memory tag controlled by the slider. It may look similar to this, though the tank style, cutaway, and colors are up to the student. Alrighty, so as you can see, I already have this set up. Yes, I'm in preview mode. So here's a little example of what we're aiming for, what it's going to look like. So we press the button, and it's pressed. Press the button again, unpressed. And so you can just press it and unpress it as much as you want. And with the tank, you move the slider, and then it raises the level in the tank. With the number increasing and decreasing as well. Now, with that, you may have noticed these two little tags over here change. So let me get out of preview mode, and I'll show you. So, I have a button state tag, which is for my little group here, and my tank level tag, which is for this little group here. So, this little animation is actually two different buttons, controlled by this button. So this image here, you go to Tools and then Symbol Factory, and let me get rid of that. And as you can see, here is our pressed image, and here's our unpressed image. And so putting those both in here, we can, we can be like, oh, and then we whoop, just cover it up. And then we have our button component here. And right now my component tab is gone because I have my tag browser over here. But usually whenever you launch Ignition, your component tab will be right over here. And so, does this also have that tag? It does, okay. So, both, or rather, this unpressed image is connected with a custom property, which I've titled isPressed, and its visibility. Okay, so step by step, I made a custom property for this unpressed button called isPressed. And that's just, for some clarification of what that property does. I bound my visible property using the little link to my isPressed property. And then I created my button state memory tag by right-clicking and going to new tag, and then new standard tag, and there's my memory tag. I titled it button state because buttons only have two states, off and on. Now, if we edit this tag, you can see the name, you can see that's enabled, and I made it a Boolean tag. Boolean. Anyways, my isPressed property is also a Boolean. So they can directly communicate because they have the same type of value. And so with my isPressed custom property, I linked it to my button state tag. Nothing in the tag, just the tag itself. And then you come and you cover this up so it just looks like one little thing. And then with my button, do I have a custom property on this? No, I don't. I thought I did. Okay. With my button, how did I link that? Oh, I know what I did. So with my button, I went to scripting. I went to, I initially was going to be like, oh, set tag value. That would be. But you go to action and then action performed, and then you go to script editor, and this is the custom script that I used. So naturally, my button state is set to false, but if I press the button, it'll set it to true. I believe. I might have that swapped around. It might be it's set to true, and then I have it false. It's been a long time since I've done Python. But anyways, so if I press this button, it changes my button state memory tag to true or false, which then changes my visibility of this unpressed button to true or false. So whenever I press this button, it messes with the tag, which then makes this image visible or invisible, which then reveals this underneath, or not, depending on whether it's true or false. So then that gives the appearance of the button is being pressed or unpressed, depending on clicking this button component. Now with the slider, it's a little more complicated than that. So with this slider here, I first created my tank level tag, and I did the same exact thing. I went to my new tag, my new standard tag, and my memory tag. But with my tank level tag, it's important that it's not a Boolean, but instead it's a float, which means it can have a wide range of numbers as a value instead of just a true or false. And so with my slider, I bound my value to my value in the tank level tag. And an important thing that I missed initially whenever I was making this was hitting this little bidirectional option. So that means that the tank level tag and my slider can actively share the same value both ways. So that my slider can actively control my tank level tag. And then if I wanted to change this value here, my tank level tag could control my slider. And then I have this tank with a cutaway. And so I found this tank in the symbol factory, and I went with tank 2, and I went with this one right here. So I dragged that in, and then I used my drawing component, my line tool, which is always on this very, very rightmost side, and I drew around a little bit, and then it creates this. It creates a little shape. Now I'm not going to be using that, but you would drag it over your tank, and then you would select your tank. You'd select your tank, and then you would hold Control and select the shape that you have over it, and then you would go to Shape and hit Difference. Now I don't have another shape that I've selected, so I can't actually use Difference right now. But then we create this, which is a single component, but it just has this little hole in it. And then I have my tank, my little container component that I grabbed from the components, and then you just put it right over it. So then, then it just shows that it's there. That's what your level is. That's what your percentage is. And so what I did was I bound the value of my tank level to, is that a custom property? Yeah, to a custom property that I made for it, which is tank level. And then binding that tank level property, I bound it to the value of the tank level tag again. So it's a little counterintuitive, I suppose, because you could just bind the value to the tank level tag instead of binding it to a different like property, which then goes to the tag. But it's what was needed. So then, if I go into preview mode, I change the value here, which changes the value of my tank level tag, which then changes that custom property for my tank, which then changes the value of that tank. So then you can change the level however much you need. And then, there's the visibility and invisibility of that component. But putting it over each other just makes it look simply like it's just being pressed. Like it's not even a separate component turning invisible. And I can show you that it is, it's just that separate component. Because look, where is it? Until I go back into preview mode, I hit it, and there it is. So it's just controlling the visibility of this little image. Let me go out of preview mode. I'll hide that back under there. And I think that's it. Yep, that's the lab. So yeah, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.